Hey all, here at OS Reviews. You're watching our hands-on review of the Ulefone Note 7. This is a ultra-budget Android smartphone that sells for only $70, and for the money you're getting a ultra-small teardrop notch. That's a feature found on more expensive devices usually, and allows you to interact with a more impressive and immersive display. This one here measuring 6.1 inches diagonally. And the design is obviously not completely original. It's definitely inspired by Huawei and Xiaomi, namely the P20 Pro on the rear with its triple lens setup. We'll talk about whether those cameras are real or not in a moment. And secondly, the display in terms of its notch and its name is very similar to the Xiaomi Redmi Note 7. Now it does use, again, pretty low-end hardware. It has a quad-core processor at 1.33 GHz from MediaTek, not Qualcomm, 16 gigs of built-in storage and just 1 gigabyte of RAM, but that's actually very average for Android Go edition phones, which again require less memory and space to run. We'll talk about again the performance in a bit more detail later on. It has also a 3,500 milliamp hour capacity battery, which is actually pretty impressive. Allows the phone to be used for about 2 days in my testing. Some things that the Ulefone Note 7 is obviously missing would be a fingerprint scanner, so that's one compromise here. To make a better display, they decided to cut that out. And the second compromise would probably be the resolution of the display, which is only about HD quality. So on a larger screen like this, full HD would have been definitely recommendable. However, again, for $70, it is still very much forgivable, and at least the colors and viewing angles are better than expected. Keeping in mind that the newest Xiaomi A3 that was just released, which sells for, again, $250, has a 720p display as well, it's a lot easier to justify what Ulefone have done here to keep the costs low. Even against more expensive mid-end phones on the market, which sell for about $200, like the Mi A2 Lite, you can see that the bezel sizes are actually very much respectable. Especially that notch size is just a lot smaller than what you'll find on, say, even the iPhone X. So they've done a pretty decent job in terms of making the screen, I think, look pretty nice. Even the chin on the bottom, as you can see there, is actually slightly smaller even than the Mi A2 Lite, which sells for 2-3 times the price of the Ulefone here. Otherwise, the phone itself is relatively light for a large device like it, just because it is made entirely out of plastic. It does feel like a unibody finish, however, because the back cover kind of wraps onto its sides. It is very glossy and attracts fingerprints like crazy, which is nice that Ulefone included a soft carrying case in the box just to make it a bit easier to grip and hold, but otherwise feels pretty decent as far as construction quality is concerned for the entry-level price. We have the micro USB port for charging, and on the right-hand spine, you'll find access to the very textured power key that's easy to press and very tactile. You also have access to the volume rocker. On the very top, you have access to a standard 3.5mm headphone jack. As aforementioned in our unboxing and first impressions video, Ulefone did slap a skin that's pretty light on top of Android Go 8.1 Oreo, and that actually disabled the ability for you to access a app drawer, which I'm not a fan of, and as such I installed Nova Launcher, which is working a lot better in my opinion. So all you get that's pre-installed would be the standard Google apps, including YouTube Go Edition, Google Assistant Go Edition. We also have the calculator, basic utility tools like a file manager, Gmail Go Edition, and all of these applications take less space than on the full version of their apps respectively. But if you want to, you can still install the regular full versions of these applications from the Play Store, just like on any other Android phone. Here's what these settings look like, and you're able to do things like hide the navigation bar if you don't want to see it, although you don't get access to gestures like on Android 9.0 Pie, so at the end of the day you still have to rely on these software keys to navigate the system. The camera interface, just like the hardware design, is pretty inspired by Huawei in my opinion, reminding me a lot of EMUI. Now the AI mode is not very effective in my opinion. In fact, I'm not too sure what it's doing because it doesn't seem to actually work in terms of recognizing what you're pointing it at. So similar to the portrait mode, it doesn't actually make great use of the second and third lens. In fact, either the second and third lenses are fake or they're not actually connected to the software, which is something that we've seen before on other budget or clone-like phones from Shenzhen, China, so this really is no exception. It's basically using software to create a bokeh effect. The quality is actually better than expected. Just like other Ulefone devices that we've checked out before, I would say out of the cheaper kind of clone-like phones from these brands, Ulefone is actually one of the better ones in terms of the camera performance. Take, for example, this shot of the sky. It's actually managed to capture some layering in the clouds using the HDR mode, which is something that, cheaper phones from just a few years ago would have not been able to do. Overall details can be a little bit soft, but you can still pull in some fairly artistic looking images, again, if you are patient with this lens. So all in all, even though it's only 8 megapixels and the second and third lenses are pretty much fake, I would still say that it does better than expected for a $70 phone. Here's what the camera looks like if I apply the flash on a closer subject at night. I would say that the biggest problem of the camera really isn't the quality per se, but it's just if you've used a more expensive phone, the shutter speed is just significantly longer. Doing things like, for example, exiting out of this app and then jumping back into the app, you can see here definitely takes a split-second delay, which may force you to miss out on a moment or a particular shot. So not quite as lightning fast, but the actual quality of the images are definitely better than I was originally expecting. Takeaway would be that the audio quality is average. In fact, it's lagging a little bit in terms of bass, and it, again, isn't the most ideal placement. But for the price, again, it is acceptable. I would say using your own headphones or using Bluetooth might be a better option if you want the best audio quality. The viewing experience for media, as you can see using YouTube, doesn't actually fill to the top of the notch like on other devices such as the Mi A2 Lite or the Essential phone that we've reviewed, but overall still makes for a pretty immersive experience on such a large panel. Now next, let's do a quick look at how it works in terms of web browsing. The Verge is a pretty complex page, lots of ads and video elements, but it is seeming to load back here just fine, as long as you are a bit more patient. Reception quality seems to be a strength on the Ulefone Note 7 because the phone's body is made entirely out of plastic, and almost full bars for cellular connectivity. So as a result, I found that loading back pages actually was a little bit better than I was expecting compared to other budget phones I've tried in the past. It's just, again, the RAM itself is very limited, so if you are doing multitasking and loading up a very complex page, I would definitely recommend closing out of those background applications to make things feel a bit more snappy and responsive. When it comes to some of the essentials, such as making phone calls, I would say that the Ulefone Note 7 does all right. There isn't really noise cancellation for microphones, so if you are in a really crowded or busy environment, it might be a little bit tough. It does pick up traces of background noise. Other extras on this phone would really just be custom wallpapers that Ulefone have loaded it with, which are a bit different from, say, the ones you get from a stock install of Android. But aside from that, it is going to be very much a clean, again, software experience. It can install any program from the Play Store that you would want to on a regular phone. It's just the storage is quite limited, although you can expand it using a micro SD card. You can also install things like Word, Excel, PowerPoint for editing documents when on the go. No problems there. You can install Netflix, Hulu for watching videos, and as far as gaming is concerned, you can also install pretty much any title that you would want as long as the space allows it to be installed. The only thing I'll point out though is if you are trying a game like Asphalt 9 or PUBG, it really isn't recommendable. But if your expectations are modest and the majority of the games that you play are kind of 2D based and a bit more simple, I would say that that's definitely where this phone won't have too many issues for you. Just know that, again, the transitions and animations, loading back times will be a little bit longer than on a regular phone. As you can see there, occasional moments of delay and hesitation. Another game here, Stack, we can see there's a few moments of hesitation and unevenness compared to a flagship device, but still is for the most part playable, again, without too many issues on these simpler 2D based titles. So that's the Ulefone Note 7. Overall, for $70, the big selling point here really is that display, it being really large, offering good viewing angles, and having a very modern looking tiny teardrop notch. It makes the overall experience quite immersive for watching videos and just interacting with media. Performance is alright as a budget phone. It's not anything extraordinary, but it holds up decently, I would say, if you are light on your usage. It's not going to be a rival or replacement for more expensive flagship phones, but for only $70 and below, it definitely is one of the better values you'll find on the market and offers a pretty clean install of Android OS, Respectable performance overall, and again, gets all the essentials here for folks that just need something very basic to get by. And if you're looking for an emergency phone, a travel phone, you don't want to bring something more expensive, could actually be a great option to take a closer look at. So if you're interested and you want to learn more details, you can check it out in the links down below. But for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Ulefone Note 7, a $70 phone with a teardrop notch.